Another weekend of college football is around the corner, and we have another week of predictions to get to. The copyright strike will be there. I don't care. That's a really good song that I want to use for this week. Welcome to another weekend of college football predictions. This time we're gonna get right into it. We're gonna hopefully I don't yawn the whole video. I got some Mountain Dew just in case. To the left of me, not sponsored by Mountain Dew, by the way. I wish I was. But we're gonna get right into it, starting off with a Thursday night game at 7 p.m. this Thursday. Which I'm recording this on Wednesday, so I have to get this up tomorrow before the game. And this Thursday's game, for the ranked matchups, we have BYU and Utah State. Now BYU, they left me with a bunch of questions after after their win against Oregon. A bunch of questions, and some of those questions are: is BYU the team that can continuously pull off wins against ranked opponents later on down? I don't know what the rest of their schedule is. We're only looking at this matchup, and with this one, I am gonna take the BYU Cougars, even though I don't really trust that BYU team. They've made me question all year long, but it's Utah State. I don't see Utah State doing much against BYU on the road. Next up, you have Washington and UCLA. Washington coming off a massive win over Michigan State, who was ranked, and then hosted Stanford. So this is their first road game of the year. And it happens to be a massive game, a Friday night game against the UCLA Bruins. Both teams are 1-0, so a team has got to give tonight on that undefeated record. Come on. I'm gonna as UCLA in the Rose Bowl. I'm going to take Washington in this one, but I do have a feeling that UCLA can pull off some form of an upset while they're on the road, or while they're at home. Next up, you have our game of the week. It's an early one. It's a very early one. It's Kentucky and Ole Miss. Now, this one, I don't know if I should skip this one and come back to it later, or if I should or just predict this now. I'm probably gonna predict it now, but for future reference, for games of the week, should I predict that last? And if we do, I'm gonna talk to Elijah and have it move to like the last game I predict. So, but for now, we're going to pick it right now. Kentucky and Ole Miss. Now, Kentucky, they've surprised me all year long. Or they've been a real surprise for me all year long with their win against Florida to open the year, and then their shutout win against Youngstown State, which is a FCS team. It's kind of ridiculous as to them blowing out opponents. And then their win against Northern Illinois, but this is actually their fifth game of the year because they did play week 0. So they're 4-0, but we're in week 4 of the college football season. So I think and looking at Ole Miss, they started the year off ranked, so this is going to be Ole Miss's first true test when it comes to can they run for the SEC? Can they make a good statement to run for an SEC title? I think they can, and but unfortunately with it being a day game, upsets typically usually happen when they're at night. So with that being said, I am taking Kentucky in this one. I have a feeling that Elijah could predict Ole Miss to win in this game. But yeah, I don't think Ole Miss could win this. I don't think Ole Miss can win this game. I really do. I think Kentucky has their team figured out more than Ole Miss does. With Kentucky having their one win against that Florida team. Moving on down, you have our first Big 12 battle of the day. Oklahoma traveling to TCU to take on the Horned Frogs. I don't know about this one. Like I said, I don't trust Oklahoma with that new coaching staff. I really don't. And with TCU, let me look at their record really quick before I predict anything. And with TCU, a 3-0 start for the year, and their last loss was Iowa State last year. That's funny. Um, and with TCU, their only good matchup that they had was Southern Methodist, and that dogfight of a battle. I don't think Colorado's good. And this FCS opponent that they played, they weren't good. SMU is their only tough opponent that they've played. Now, looking at Oklahoma, I said this last week, and I will continue to say this all week long. Oklahoma is not the Oklahoma of the past. Looking back at last week, couldn't pull off the win against an unranked Kansas State team, and now Oklahoma's dropped to 18. They have after their fifth straight. Wait, right? Fifth straight. They played. Okay, so Oklahoma also played week 0. That's really weird. That's so weird. I gotta probably mute this TV because there's music playing on it. I probably should have muted that when I started. I completely forgot to. That's my fault. I really think I really still believe that Oklahoma is not the team they are. So with that being said, I am gonna take my upset here with TCU. They've been in recent history. TCU has played Oklahoma tough. Going back a couple years ago, when Iowa State had one of their worst years ever under Paul Rhodes, TCU dominated Iowa State in the last game of the year, ultimately tying the Big 12 with Oklahoma. And then Oklahoma got good again, and they basically ran the Big 12 for 9 straight years. But TCU has constantly played them tough. And with that being said, I'm taking TCU in an upset here. Moving on down, you have Minnesota and Purdue. Now, Purdue have a history of going to ranked opponent stadiums and forcing upsets, going back to last year against Iowa, when Iowa was in the top 5. Minnesota, though, however, is not going to be is one of those teams that can dominate. Look, I mean, yes, going back to their FCS opponents in New Mexico State, Western Illinois, those were dominant wins. Colorado was even a dominant win, and Colorado's not a good team. Like I said, Colorado not a good team this year. I'm gonna keep to that, and I will stick to that. And then Michigan State, an unranked opponent coming off a loss, also dominating them. Purdue, dominant win over a close loss to Penn State in week 1. A dominant win over an FCS actually week 0, dominant win over an FCS opponent. A close loss to Syracuse, which is surprising about me, and then a close win against Florida A&M, which that's not characteristic of Purdue football. I'm picking Minnesota in this one. There's absolutely no shot that Purdue has a chance if they're going to play like that. Moving on down, you have Kansas State and Texas Tech. Now, this one, you're talking 2 teams who pulled off upsets over the weekend. Now, why Texas Tech is not ranked is an actual question mark to me. But you look at their 3 games, their 4 games that they've played. It's that loss to NC State. The only reason that Texas Tech is not ranked. I'm pretty sure Texas Tech is getting votes though. Pretty damn confident about that. However, However, if you look at uh if you look at Kansas State's win games that they played, week 0, South Dakota dominant win. Week 1, Missouri. We predicted that game. I predicted Kansas State. I was right, and Missouri did take a fat L. Then Kansas State suddenly loses to a Tulane team that I didn't even know was going to be good this year. They are 3-1. One of those 3 wins being against this now ranked Kansas State off team who turns around and upsets number 6 in the nation. So yes, should Kansas State be ranked? Absolutely. Especially with where they're at. 25, I think that's a perfect spot. Good job on the AP poll. Good job on the AP to predict Kansas State to win for number 25. I am going to take Kansas State in that one. Texas Tech could throw up the upset though. They could. Moving on down, you have a military game between Navy and Air Force. This one, Air Force is geared up to probably to take the Commander-in-Chief's trophy for the first time in years. Because Army is not good, neither is Navy. Navy losing to Delaware, an FCS opponent, and then losing to Memphis, who Memphis is a good team. Memphis will always be a good team. So let's not forget that here. But you turn around and then you finally get your first win, but you needed overtime against an East Carolina team that I haven't followed very closely. I'm going to be honest, I haven't followed them very closely because I really can't, because most of the games are on a channel I don't get. And then you look over Air Force losing to Wyoming, beating Northern Iowa in week 1, beating Colorado. Like I said, Colorado not good this year. And that sounds like a broken record now, don't I? And then dominating Nevada, who Nevada went to play Iowa the week prior to that game, which got shut out in Kinnick, which honestly shocked me. So this game, I mean, yes, Air Force is favored by 14. That is gonna be. I'm gonna say Air Force wins this one. I'm not going to say they win the Commander-in-Chief's trophy. I'm gonna say that's gonna fall if Army can beat Air Force later on in the year, then it will definitely come down to the top. Then it'll definitely come down to that Army Navy game, which we will be predicting later on, and we may do a bunch of FCS games that week. I'm going to talk to Elijah about that because I do know that that Army Navy game, there really isn't that many big games going that week, so we may dip down into the FCS level. I'm already preparing for that, so I'm working on getting the FCS logos just so that way we can, because I do know that's around FCS playoffs, so every game is going to be important in that division level of football. But anyway, moving on down, you have Utah and Oregon State. You got Utah. Utah. Let me talk to you guys for a second here. Let me do a one-on-one with you guys for a minute. Y'all have questioned me all year long. Yes, y'all had a close matchup with Florida. But now and then obviously your FCS opponent, you pay them $1.5 million to come and kick their ass. And then you play San Diego State and then Arizona State. Now I'm not saying that San Diego State and Arizona State are bad teams. I'm saying that you haven't faced really good competition yet. Looking at Oregon State, okay, hold on. First off, what is with football games ending in at 17-14? Is that just like the final of the year? 17-14? There's been 4 matchups that I've seen just today going over these matchups that the final score has been 17-14. I'm pretty sure. But like what is with that? Like, guys, get the offense going. Let's get more than 17-14 as a final score here. But they are coming off a But Oregon State is coming off a very, very close loss to USC, which they did host. Now, you are going to Utah, and with this being a 1 p.m. game, I don't know how. I don't know. Fresno State, you did beat Fresno State. I did predict Fresno to win that game. I'm actually kind of shocked that Oregon State was able to pull it off. So is Oregon State going to be the team that can ultimately be the dark horse in the Pac-12 then? That's the real question here. They are in the Pac-12, right? Yes, they are. Okay. Is Oregon State going to be that team that's the dark horse in the Pac-12? Because look at the standings down here. I'll zoom in for you so that way you guys can see what I'm looking at. I don't think I'm going to be able to zoom in that much. But USC, UCLA, Washington, California, Oregon, Utah, Oregon State, Washington State, Arizona, Arizona State, Colorado, Stanford. Like I said, Colorado's not good. Not good at all. They're 0-4. So they're going to be we're completely throwing Colorado under the bus on this one. I'm sorry, Colorado fans, but I'm throwing them under the bus. And no, it's not because y'all were former Big 12 members. I respect y'all as a former member, but y'all ain't good this year, so I'm throwing you under the bus. Look at Oregon State, or look at all of these teams right here. Look at all of these. All of these teams. I'll just do that. Look at all these. All of them have a winning record. Literally, only 4 teams have either a below 500 record or a 500 record. That is really good for the Pac-12, especially with how closely competitive that this year is going to be, according to the standings as of right now. So this one's going to be tough, but with that being said, I am going to take the Utes in this one. With it being the home game, I'm going to give them the advantage on that one. Don't count Oregon State out. They might be able to pull off the upset. Moving down, you have Michigan State and Maryland. Now, this one's tricky. You're talking a Michigan State team that beat Western Michigan, beat Akron as a ranked team, turns around, loses to Washington, and then gets dominated by a Minnesota Golden Gophers football team. Okay. Panic time for Michigan State? Absolutely. I listened to Joel Klatt's podcast today. Michigan State fans need to start panicking. You really do. Moving over to Maryland. Buffalo, easy win. Charlotte, easy win. SMU, going back to the TCU game earlier, that was not an easy win. Y'all dogfighted for that win. So, close win, and then you turn around and do the same exact score, but except on the losing end in Ann Arbor at the Big House. It's Maryland. This could be Maryland's year that they actually might be able to run the Big Ten if Michigan finds a way to lose at least 2 games. One of them has to be. One of the games that Michigan has to lose has to be that Ohio State game later on in the year. If Michigan doesn't lose that, Michigan will go on and go back-to-back titles. If they do lose to Ohio State, then it's up for grabs. By the way, I don't know how the sign is doing. If this is actually a really good spot. I've only yawned a couple times, plus a couple sips of my Mountain Dew has prevented that. So Mountain Dew might be thrown into videos from now on if it's a 1 liter or if it's an open can. But I'm going to take Michigan State. You know what? Yeah, I'm gonna pick Michigan State to bounce back because they need a bounce back game. I really think that Maryland showed weakness. I really did. And if Michigan actually nope, fuck it, nope. Changing my pick right here, red video. I'm gonna pick Maryland. I'm gonna pick Maryland. So far I've picked 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 up straight away home opponents. I don't know if that's going to continue here. We don't feature Bama on here enough. a lot because we honestly think they're overrated, and I don't see how Alabama is number 2 when yes yes they were the top 2 last year with making it. But with that being said, we're talking Alabama, Arkansas. Alabama dominant win against Vanderbilt, dominant win against Louisiana Monroe, a close win against Texas, a close win against and a dominant win against Utah State. And then you look at Arkansas. Beat Cincinnati, who was supposedly the favorite in the best group of 5 team. Dominant win against South Carolina. You didn't do very well against Missouri State, which shocked me because that game y'all were on upset watch all game long. It was only a 9-point win, which literally is a touchdown and a 2-point conversion. Actually, no, it had to be a touchdown, and then a field goal. And then you have A&M, who you lose because your kicker thinks that the top of the upright is good when it's really not. But I will say, I hate Alabama because of how highly praised that team really is. They need to stop praising Alabama because if they constantly keep doing it, then they will constantly be a top 25 opponent or a top 25 team. I don't think Alabama deserves top 25 if they constantly lose a close game, especially to unranked opponents. Going back to last year where they lost to A&M. But I hate. Actually, you know what? I am going to pick Arkansas. I'm going to be wrong about this. I will be wrong about this. I'm going to pick Arkansas. There's always that one game where Alabama is like, okay, we got this. We don't need to do much. We don't need to do much preparation. We already know what team we're going up against. And then they end up losing close. With this game being on CBS, I don't think I'm going to be able to watch it, but that game's gonna shock me a little bit if Alabama finds a way to lose that game. Moving on down, you have Ohio State and Rutgers here. Now, Rutgers coming off a loss to Iowa. It was a dominant loss to Iowa. And Ohio State is 4.5. It's at Ohio Stadium in the shoe. It's at the shoe. I don't see why I'm not picking Ohio State in this one. I've just been going down and picking all the home teams. This is why I want unranked games. Because then I'll pick the home team the entire way. But this next one I may change up my pick here. It's Oklahoma State and Baylor. Now, Baylor coming off. Okay, hold on. Let me pause here really quick. They go into Jack Trice Stadium in Ames, and I wouldn't say dominated Iowa State, but they beat Iowa State. Here's the problem with that. I was able to watch all the way up to about 10 minutes left to go in the fourth. Baylor is getting way too much help from the referees. Way too much help. If you go back and watch that game, Baylor had one of Iowa State's best defensive players got called for targeting on a hit that was from the side. Yes, the helmet made contact, which yes, that makes sense. I'm a little upset about that. Only because Baylor had or at least one identical play that looked like that, and the play did not get called. The play didn't get called. So Baylor got away with 4 of their with 4 targeting calls, in my opinion. It was 4 targeting calls that got missed. And Baylor don't take that loss. Don't take that loss with any granted. And y'all say, oh, two of Iowa State's touchdowns that they got were helped by the ref. No. No. The ref was literally standing right there. Iowa State had possession on their first touchdown, and then Brock recovered the fumble into the end that was in the end zone right before he was out of bounds. So you can just kiss my hiney. I'm picking Oklahoma State, and I'm actually going to make this my lock. Baylor should not have won that game last week. Should not have. The fact they went up one when the refs helped them is what pisses me off. I'm picking Oklahoma State as my lock. But moving on down, you got Penn State and Northwestern. Northwestern has had a bad year. Very bad year. Penn State off to a great start. Beating Purdue, beating Ohio, going down to beat Auburn, and then hosting Central Michigan. This will be their first back-to-back home games this year. I think it's only one of two, I think. I think it's one of one, and then they'll have a road, I believe, later on in the year. But anyway, I'm going to pick Penn State in this one. I don't see Northwestern doing much. I really don't. Wake Forest and Florida State. This one you could argue as a game of the week. Wake Forest coming off a close loss to Clemson in a double overtime thriller. That game, I'm so mad I couldn't watch. I was at work when it was happening. And then you got Boston College. Oh, no. Hold on. Sorry. Go back. So, you start the year off against VMI, beating them like one-handed, basically. Then going to Vanderbilt, beating them. Hosting Liberty, beating them, but close. Liberty almost pulled off that upset, which I'm surprised they did. And then you host Clemson, which you might face them again later on in the ACC championship game, and lose to them by, what would that be, a touchdown? Yeah, lose to them by a touchdown. And then you look at Florida State, undefeated, but who have they played? Louisville? Can't really say they're really a tough opponent, but then again, that was a really close game. You can say LSU was a really good win in Baton Rouge, blocked field goal or blocked extra point to win that game, and then Boston College, dominant win. This being in Doak Campbell Stadium in Tallahassee at Florida State, I'm actually, you know what? I'm gonna say Wake Forest goes down and actually beats Florida State. I really think they can. Because Florida State and Wake Forest are too closely ranked that this is too good of a game to call. So I'm going to pick Wake Forest in this one. And then moving on, and then next game you have A&M and Mississippi State. A&M coming off a close win over Arkansas, previously mentioned. A field goal which would have won them the game goes off the top upright and rains back down into the end zone. And then you look at Mississippi State, the win against Memphis, the win against Arizona, a loss, and I wouldn't say a dominant loss, but I wouldn't say a close loss to LSU, and then dominate Bowling Green, This one's going to be a dogfight, honestly. And with it being at Davis Wade Stadium in where is this at? Starkville, Mississippi. This is biased. This is a biased opinion. I'm picking A&M. I cannot go away from A&M. I really can't. I love picking A&M. I've only been wrong once all year long on picking A&M. Only one. So I'm picking A&M in this one. This one is going to be a fun one. Virginia and Duke. Now, this one, I was looking at games. I'm like, okay, I want to add some games. That it could be tricky to pick. With it being conference play, some of these games are not going to be easy to pick, no matter if it's ranked or not. This one is one of them that is not ranked, but is going to be a tough pick. Duke started off the year against Temple with a shutout win, and then they beat Northwestern after Northwestern came back from Dublin, which I really think that could be. I really think that that's actually gonna be. I'm gonna blame that loss. Actually, no, I'm not gonna blame that loss because they're 1-3. Their only win, Northwestern's only win was against Nebraska. But then again, I can also say that's only because it's Nebraska. But that's beside the point. And then you go North Carolina A&T, dominate them, and then you go to Lawrence, Kansas, and get absolutely rocked by a Jayhawk team that is not known for being good at football in recent memory. And then you go over to Virginia, 2-2 on the year, the win against Richmond, a terrible loss to Illinois, close win against Old Dominion, and then the first conference game you play is against a dominant Syracuse team who beat Purdue earlier. So Syracuse might be getting on one of these videos later on in the year. So with that being said, I'm going to have to take the Blue Devils in this one. I don't see how Duke can how Duke can lose this game. But I won't be surprised if that doesn't happen. Moving on down, you have another candidate for game of the week. NC State and Clemson. Now NC State playing their first conference game all year. They've played 4 non-conference games already. And Clemson has already played 2 conference games. One of them being Georgia Tech in week 1. Second one was just last week, and that 51-45 double overtime win, the thriller of the week. And then you look at NC State, and you look at that schedule, the last 5 minus these bottom 2. So look at the last 4. Who has NC State actually really played? Granted, Texas Tech did upset Texas for the first time in Lubbock for years. Dominated UConn, dominate Charleston Southern, and then a close win to East Carolina. And then you look at Clemson, dominant win over Georgia Tech, dominant win over, I don't even know who that is, Furman? I think that's Furman. A dominant win over Louisiana Tech, and then you have and then that close loss to Wake Forest. Now, here's the question I'm going to ask. Clemson did drop after that, because I think Clemson was number 3 in that game. I think. Let me double check that. No, they were number 5. So, and Wake Forest did go down 1 after that. So then I bear the question: is Clemson actually good? Because they played close to they played tough a Wake Forest team that played them tough, and then you have NC State, who hasn't really played an opponent all year. So I'm actually going to take Clemson in this one. It's too close to call on that one. Moving on down, you have Pittsburgh and Georgia Tech. How long has this video been going for? 33 minutes. Okay, we're on pace. We're on pace here. Pittsburgh and Georgia Tech. I'm gonna pick Pittsburgh in this one. I don't think I have to look at this, but I'm going to anyway because I want to utilize the links here. Pittsburgh, their only loss was to Tennessee, and that was an overtime loss. So, and Georgia Tech, they're 1-3 on the year. Yeah, I'm picking Pitt in this one. There's no reason why I shouldn't. Moving on down, you have Arizona State and USC. Arizona State has not looked good all year long. I am gonna pick USC. I don't even need to look at that one. And then finally, before we get to the Iowa games, you have Oregon and Stanford. Now, Stanford did pull off the upset win over Oregon last year, if I remember correctly. But Stanford has not won a conference game yet. Their only win on the year is against Colgate, which is an FCS opponent. And then you move over to Oregon. The only team that Oregon really has played this year is Georgia, which they didn't play good at all, and then BYU, which is the only game that BYU is making question. Excuse me. So with that being said, I'm taking Oregon in this one. This one is just like too goddamn close to call. Moving on down, you have Michigan and Iowa. Now, Elijah did add something that he wanted me to play really quick. This was from a press conference from Michigan. I don't own the rights to the video. Just want to throw that out there. But this was a thing that Jim Harbaugh said in his press conference when talking about going to Kinnick. A stadium where top 5 teams go to die. Now, yes, you look at the history. Teams that are in the top 5 that go to Kinnick are 1-5 all time. Are 1-5. Two of those 5 losses for top 5 teams, Ohio State and Michigan. Ohio State and Michigan. One of those Michigan losses was a nightcap. This game is not a nightcap. Oh crap. You know what? I'm actually going to turn this yellow. I'm going to make this yellow because I need to be able to actually change it to my color of the prediction. I am picking Michigan in this one. Actually, you know what? I'm going to troll Elijah here a little bit. I'm going to troll Elijah just a little bit. So the Michigan colors are out. I'm picking Michigan over Iowa. Guys. Iowa has not proven anything yet. They haven't proven anything. Their offense has been garbage all year long. They have been dog water all year long. Their defense has kept them in games, but haven't been that reliable. Yes, you're looking at a 3-1 Iowa team, but when you don't have the offense, how many games are you actually going to win this year? That one loss was against a brand new Iowa State team that no one has seen. And everyone was saying Deckers is only going to experience a tough crowd. Well, the only tough crowd that he'll experience is in Kinnick. I don't think that's the case. I really don't. Because Iowa, yes, your fan base is amazing. Y'all are prideful of your Hawkeyes. That's awesome. I don't think that's going to do anything towards you. I really don't. So, whoa, crap. So, yeah, with that being said, I'm going to pick Michigan. Moving on down, you have Iowa State and Kansas. Kansas undefeated scares me, but not as badly. Iowa State is only favored by 3. But you have to think. Let me actually pull up the history really quick here. Let me pull up the history of Iowa State and Kansas. It's not going to look good for Iowa State. I will say that now. Because Kansas has surprised everyone. So the current streak for Iowa State against Kansas is 7. Going back to 2015, back when Paul Rhoads was head coach. Then Matt Campbell took over in 2016. That was one of 3 Iowa State wins. And then Iowa State has just dominated since. Their 45-0 win in Ames, 27-3 in Lawrence. Their closest battle was 41-31 in Ames, 52-22 in Lawrence, and then Iowa State's most dominant win, 59-7 in Ames. I don't see Kansas doing much against Iowa State. I really don't. And history has shown that. There's only been 6 ties, 1 here with no score, 2 here with no score, and this series has gone back since. It's been consistent since 1928. And since then, I think Iowa State is just barely under that. So, like, that's minus. Okay, hold on. That's minus how many games here? So, minus 1, 2, 3 for 3 wins for Iowa State, but minus 4 for Kansas. And then minus 1 tie. So, this game, it doesn't scare me, but I don't think Kansas. I think Kansas might be legit this year. And if they beat Iowa State, then yes, Kansas is legit. I'm picking Iowa State because I have to pick my Cyclones. I'm not going against my Cyclones here. And then next up, you have Indiana State and Northern Iowa. Northern Iowa finally breaking the losing streak, beating Western Illinois 52-17 on the road. Now they're hosting an Indiana State Sycamores team that is 1-2 on the year with their win against UNA. I don't even know who the hell this is. Northern Alabama. And Northern Alabama Lions, which I'll be getting that logo soon. That was actually a really nice logo. A loss to Purdue and then a loss to Montana. So I'm hoping you and I can pull off the win this year, so I'm gonna pick them. I just don't know. I don't know anything about UNI this year. I really don't. So looking over, you've got. So there's a lot of differences in the predictions this week. So our one main difference I'm looking at is he has Oklahoma and I got TCU in the upset. He's got Michigan State and Bama, and I have Maryland and Arkansas. I got my lock as Oklahoma State, Penn State. He's got Virginia, and I got Duke. So this week could be different. And then 2 other differences. He has Iowa as an upset. I have Michigan. He has Kansas, and I have Iowa State. So that one. So this week is definitely interesting. By any means of the word. By any means. So, what do you guys think of the predictions for this week? Let me know. This week is going to be, like I said, this week is going to be interesting. And I think that we're gonna have a lot of upsets over this weekend. Like I said, what do you guys think of the predictions this week? And I gotta sign out for the week so I can get this upload tonight. I will catch you guys later. See you guys.